Hey folks, BENTHELOONEY here. After I mentioned my favorite anime movies from last year in my Sausage Party review, people were asking me to do individual reviews of them. Well, since you people asked so nicely, I'll go ahead and do that. I'm not going to do any numbering system for this. I'm just going to talk about the movies in the order from my least favorite to my favorite. However, I didn't see every animated movie that came out last year. I wanted to see Storks and Trolls, but I never got around to them. I'll be sure to see them and give my thoughts on them somewhere down the line. Alright, let's get to it. Let's start with Finding Dory. I love Pixar movies. All two of them. But I'm always optimistic that there's a chance they're going to make a movie that I really love. When they actually decide to make a movie that's not a sequel, that usually comes out every 5 years or so. And even then, you take the risk of that original movie being somewhat similar to a movie you've already seen. But I'm getting off topic. So in this sequel to Finding Nemo, Dory goes off on a journey to find her parents. Along the way, she ends up in an aquarium, and then Marlin and Nemo set off on a journey to find Dory. Does this sound familiar? I think it does. It's the first movie again. But Bennett, it's the first movie again. But they do, it's the first movie again. I couldn't believe it. I actually couldn't believe how easy Pixar played it with this film. One of the main characters goes missing, so two characters go on a wacky adventure to save him or her while running into a bunch of colorful characters along the way. Meanwhile, the main character meets an individual, or individuals, who are stuck in a building and long to break free and go back to the ocean. The missing character is eventually reunited with his or her friends or family, and we all learn the cheesy lesson that we need to learn because I guess people are just jackasses and need to watch kids' movies to learn not to be jackasses, despite the fact that it's a lesson that My Little Pony teaches every single episode. No risks were taken with this movie. Once again, Pixar played it safe. Heck, it's right there in the title, Finding Dory. Feels like a parody of a Pixar sequel. Let's make a Finding Nemo sequel while only changing one word in the title. Finding Dory? I love it. Get to work. I mean, come on. Is this our standard for sequels nowadays? If any other movie studio that wasn't Pixar made a sequel like this, people would have destroyed it. I mean, don't kill me for saying this, but give movies like Cars 2 and Monsters University credit. At least they tried something different with their sequels. You won't hear people saying those movies were the same movie again. No, people dislike those movies for different reasons. But I'll be the first one to say, hey, at least it's not Finding Dory. I'd rather Pixar make sequels that try and fail than just doing what the prequels already did. I don't want to see the same movies again. Give me something new. Alright, with all that rambling I was doing, you probably think I hated this movie. Well, I wouldn't say that. I just thought it was okay. Not 94% on Rotten Tomatoes amazing, not $1 billion at the box office good. It was just okay. To be honest, I didn't really like Finding Nemo that much anyway. The father and son conflict felt really forced, and I felt the movie was just so dag-nab mopey. I can say that Finding Dory was a more entertaining movie than the first. I had a lot of fun with it as it had a lot more characters I found quite humorous. The three seals that hang out on the rocks, those guys were funny. That cross-eyed bird that carries Marlin and Nemo around, she was funny. That clam that Marlin and Nemo meet who cries about his girlfriend leaving him, okay. I did not see that coming, but that is by far the best joke in any Pixar movie I've seen. That had me cracking up. That was a joke worthy of The Simpsons. Speaking of The Simpsons, Albert Brooks once again does a great job of voicing Marlin. I really like him. He needs to be in more movies. So, there was a lot in this movie that had me cracking up. Mostly because I went in not expecting much from this movie. Can you blame me? It's hard for me to get excited for Pixar movies after the track record I had with them. But for once, going in with low expectations actually paid off. To a certain extent. Pixar movies have this amazing quality about them. The quality in which I'll watch most of them and say, that was good, I guess, and then I never feel like watching the movies again. I don't feel that way about any other movie I watch and enjoy. Usually when I enjoy a movie, I want to watch it again somewhere down the line. However, Pixar movies, with the exception of Inside Out and The Incredibles, leave me with this general, feeling. This movie was no exception. I felt like I got as much as I could out of it the first viewing that I don't need to watch it again. I know, a lot of talented people work on these movies. I know, a lot of effort is put into them. And I know a lot of people really love Pixar movies. Should I just shut up and go along with the crowd and see these movies as a masterpiece as everybody claims they are? No, I have standards. If I feel movies aren't challenging me as a viewer, I'm not going to bother with them. Pixar movies are the movie equivalent to pop music. They follow the same formulas, they play it safe, they're crowd-pleasing, and yet for some reason, they're the ones that keep making all the money and getting all the recognition. Well, good on them. They're successful. They must be doing something right. But getting all this critical praise and winning all these Academy Awards, I get it, folks. These movies are good. But that good? These just feel like the kind of movies you put on just to have a laugh. Are they really that groundbreaking? Are they movies that everybody's looking at and saying that they're the next masterpieces of cinema? I love a movie like Sudden Death starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. I think it's a very entertaining movie, but I'd be the first one to admit that it doesn't deserve any Academy Awards. If Pixar movies weren't as overhyped and overpraised as they are, maybe I'd have the exact opposite opinion and be saying how much I loved all these movies. But their reputation has killed them for me. For movies that are this loved and highly regarded, I expect more from them. I find them cute, I find them funny, but the greatest animated films of all time? You're kidding, right? I'm not trying to ruin these movies for you. If you love them, good for you. I'm just trying to explain my point of view because I'm sick and tired of people thinking something is wrong with me just because I don't think Pixar movies are the greatest animated movies ever. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't like the same movies you do. Friggin' sue me. Finding Dory. It was okay. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, I talked about that longer than I wanted to. Let's get into the movies I really enjoyed now. Well, I mentioned sequels while talking about Finding Dory. Want to know animated sequels that don't repeat the previous movies and are always trying something different? The Kung Fu Panda franchise. My favorite movie series from DreamWorks delivered yet again with Kung Fu Panda 3 last year. In this one, Po is visited by his father, played by Bryan Cranston, and takes him to a village full of pandas who survive and thrive. However, a shadow warrior named Kai, played by J.K. Simmons, escapes from his prison and sets out to take the chief from the Furious Five, and only Po can stop him. The Kung Fu Panda movies have this amazing ability to keep getting better as they go along, and that's quite a feat for an animated franchise, mostly because they don't try to repeat themselves and instead make new stories and make them stand out from the others in the series. Not to mention that these films are great at continuing Po's development as a character from one movie to the next. He still has his childlike traits from the first, but he continues to grow as he learns more and more martial arts techniques. The movie also had a great B-plot going on where Po's adopted father, Mr. Ping, starts to feel he's going to lose Po, the only son he ever had. Mr. Ping gets a lot of development in this movie, and it was one of the qualities that made this movie stand out as it just wasn't a Po story. It showcased that adoptive fathers can be just as good as biological fathers. What a great lesson to teach kids who might be dealing with a divorce or having a hard time getting used to their step-parent. All the cast from the first two return and all do great jobs, and while I wish these movies had more time to focus on the Furious Five, they still feel a part of the action and never feel like they're just there to be there. The story just isn't about them, and I can understand that. Kung Fu Panda 3 is an all-around fun movie that has come to be expected by this franchise. There are rumors that there might be further sequels, and if there are, they are welcomed. If they're not, I feel this movie is a satisfying conclusion to the series. I see potentials for sequels to focus on the stories of the other members of the Furious Five, as I feel Po's story is pretty much complete. If we don't get those sequels, I'll be just fine with that. Disney has been experimenting with animated movies for around 10 years now, trying new things to stay financially successful due to competition with Pixar. Which is weird because Disney owns Pixar, but I digress. I consider Big Hero 6 to be a disappointment and not up to Disney's usual standards. So, I got a little nervous when I found out they were going to release 2 movies in 2016. I didn't know what to expect from Zootopia, But it didn't matter, because I ended up really enjoying it. Simple country bunny Judy Hopps dreams of being a cop and moving to the big city known as Zootopia, where she meets a sneaky con man fox named Nick Wilde. The two of them get wrapped up in a case full of conspiracy and corruption. While most Disney movies are about fairy tales that are meant to take you away to worlds of magic and wonder, Zootopia focused more on being down-to-earth and satirical. It went into a route I never expected Disney to go into: prejudice. In this film, predators are going primal and attacking herbivores, so tension arises between animals in the city. Remind you of anything? This movie was also really relatable to me. Judy goes through something similar that I went through at the time this movie came out. She goes from her simple country life to the chaos of the big city, and soon finds out it's not exactly what she expected it to be like. I feel like I'm looking in a mirror when watching this movie. A mirror that lets you see yourself as a rabbit. And a girl. I also really love the chemistry between the two main characters. Judy and Nick play off of each other hilariously, and I got a real kick out of the animals they ran into while they were uncovering the mystery. My favorite part is when they meet up with a yak who's voiced by Tommy Chong, and they stumble upon an animal nudist colony. I felt that was really clever for Disney to sneak in a nude scene like that. It's also worth noting that Maurice LaMarche and John DiMaggio have bit parts in this movie. Voice actors acting in animated movies. Who knew, right? Zootopia was an overall great time. It was a mixture of comedy, mystery, and social commentary. I feel it made up for Big Hero 6 and was more the kind of movie I expect from Disney. After seeing it, I knew in the back of my head that Moana was right around the corner later on in the year. Surely Disney couldn't strike gold twice in the same year. Could they? Oh, yes they did. Disney took us to the Polynesian Islands with this adventure movie about a princess who goes on a quest with a demigod named Maui to prevent her island from being swallowed up by darkness. This was more of the typical Disney fare, as it featured more of the elements that Disney has become known for. I love this movie even more than Zootopia, as it did a great job of matching the feel of the movies from the Disney Renaissance. On top of that, it was directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, the guys who gave us such great movies as The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Treasure Planet, and The Princess and the Frog. This movie is an example of something familiar, yet something new. It seems like the usual Disney fare, but they try new things with it that you don't usually see from them. Those going into this movie expecting it to be the typical Disney romance story will be gladly surprised. That's right, this movie doesn't have a romance. I know, right? Those of you complaining about all the love stories in Disney movies got your wish. Also, this is a movie without a main antagonist. It's all about a journey and the challenges that the characters run into along the way. I also gotta mention the songs. I think it's always welcoming to have songs in Disney movies, as they have the power to put me in a good mood, and this movie had plenty of them. I'd say my favorite has got to be Shiny, the song that a giant crab sings. It's got a David Bowie feel to it, and I couldn't stop listening to this song on YouTube after I saw the movie. It's one of those songs I find myself singing at random moments of the day. Also, in terms of the animation quality, it's beautiful. This is a movie that takes place in the ocean, so you get to see a lot of pretty imagery in it. I'm scared to death of the ocean, but dagnab me if I gotta admit that this movie makes it look flat out beautiful. And you can't mention this movie without mentioning this. Critics who say 2D animation is dead needs to see this film. In this movie, the character Maui has tattoos on his body, and they are animated by the great Eric Goldberg. Not only was this an added bonus to a movie that was already great, I read a lot of reviews that said the animated tattoos were people's favorite part of the film. This is what I'm talking about. Just because 3D animation is around doesn't mean 2D animation should be wiped off the face of the earth. It still has a future, and I think including 2D elements into 3D movies will help warm people back up to it. It's possible. Moana has become one of my favorite Disney movies. I don't think it'll dethrone Frozen in terms of popularity anytime soon, but that remains to be seen. If you haven't seen it, check it out. You're welcome. We now come to the main event, my favorite movie from last year. What is it? What could it be? Oh, you all know it's Kubo and the Two Strings. In this amazing movie of amazingness, a young boy with a magical guitar goes on a quest to find a suit of armor and stop the evil Moon King. This was one of those movies that rarely comes around, and when they do, it's the best time you have going to the movies in a long time. Everything you've heard about this movie is justified. This is a movie that deserves all the praise it gets. Here was a film that was willing to take risks, tell an amazing story, and showcase some of the most beautiful stop-motion animation I've ever seen. I gotta hand it to the cast as well. While I wish more animated movies had voice actors in starring roles, I'm not gonna deny how great actors are when they do good jobs playing their characters. Charlize Theron is becoming a favorite of mine. Between Mad Max Fury Road and this, she's making me want to see more movies that she's in. Also, Matthew McConaughey has come a long way from one of my favorite movies, Dazed and Confused. He's become a real Hollywood contender after starting out from simple beginnings. Great for him. I'm so frustrated. This is one of those movies I want to talk so much about, but I can't because I don't want to overhype it and ruin it for anybody. So, I'm going to say that if you love animation, you should check this movie out. Laika has hit another one out of the ballpark. They have yet to make a movie that I don't like. I haven't seen Box Trolls yet. Kubo and the Two Strings has overtaken Coraline as my favorite Laika film, and I hope they continue to give us great animated films for years to come. Want to know what the real tragedy about this movie is? Nobody went to see it. It only made $70 million on a $60 million budget. For an animated movie, that's pretty bad. More people went to see Sausage Party and the Angry Birds movie over this. Oh, this movie was just trying to be creative and magical and give the audiences something new they haven't seen before. Screw it, right? Well, there are my thoughts on the animated movies from 2016 that I saw. Didn't get around to seeing everything I wanted to see, but for the little I did, I'm satisfied. For the most part. I'm also looking forward to seeing the new anime films that came out last year, too. The Boy and the Beast and Your Name are two movies I'm dying to see, and I'll be sure to give my thoughts on them when I get around to seeing them. That'll do it for this video. What are your guys' favorite animated movies from last year? How about your least favorite film? Let me know in the comments below. Until next week, take it easy, fam.